You've probably been told your whole life that kindness is one of the best things about you. But there's a strange psychological truth most people never talk about. Sometimes, kindness isn't kindness at all. Sometimes it's fear. Sometimes it's self-protection. And sometimes the nicest person in the room is the one quietly abandoning themselves the most. That's the wicked side of kindness. Not because kindness is bad, but because the reasons behind it can slowly consume you. You reply to messages immediately, even when you're exhausted. You say, no problem, when something actually bothers you. You forgive people quickly, not because the hurt disappeared, but because conflict makes your chest tighten. You're the one people rely on. The calm one, the understanding one, the one who doesn't make things difficult. And yet, sometimes, after being there for everyone else, you feel strangely invisible, like people appreciate you, but don't really see you. You might even notice a quiet resentment building inside you, a feeling you immediately push away because it feels wrong to have it. After all, you're supposed to be the kind one. If this sounds familiar, there's a deeper psychological pattern behind it. By the end of this video, you'll understand why certain people become extremely kind, sometimes to their own detriment. You'll understand the hidden survival instinct that shaped this behavior. And more importantly, you'll understand the subtle shift that begins to loosen its grip. Because what most people call kindness often starts as something else entirely. There's also one behavior many chronically kind people carry into adulthood that almost no one talks about. It quietly shapes their friendships, their relationships, even their careers. Most people never notice it. But once you see it, you can't unsee it. We'll come back to that. To understand this pattern, we need to look at how the brain learns safety. When you're young, your brain is constantly scanning the emotional environment around you. Children don't just learn language and rules. They learn something far more important. They learn what keeps them safe. If a child grows up in an environment where emotions are unpredictable, where tension can rise suddenly, where approval feels fragile, the brain begins to develop survival strategies. One of the most common strategies is something psychologists sometimes associate with patterns like hypervigilance or emotional parentification. It's simple. You become very good at reading people. You notice tone shifts, facial expressions, silences. You sense when someone is stressed before they even say it. And once you detect that tension, your brain learns something crucial. Make things easier, smooth things over, be helpful, be agreeable, be kind. Because when people around you feel calm, you feel safe. So kindness becomes more than a personality trait. It becomes a strategy, not manipulation, not deception, adaptation. Your nervous system learned that reducing other people's discomfort reduces your own danger, and the strategy works. Teachers like you, friends trust you, partners appreciate you. You become the good one. But this pattern doesn't disappear when childhood ends. It simply evolves. Now it shows up in smaller, quieter behaviors. You apologize for things that aren't really your fault. You hesitate before expressing disagreement. You carefully adjust your words so no one feels criticized. You absorb tension in a room like a sponge. Sometimes, you even feel responsible for other people's emotions. If someone is upset, your brain immediately asks, "What did I do?" Or worse, "How can I fix it?" You're often the mediator in conflicts, the emotional support system in friendships, the person who listens longer than anyone else. And from the outside, it looks like pure kindness. But inside, something else is happening. Because constantly managing other people's comfort has a cost. It requires you to suppress parts of yourself, your anger, your disappointment, your boundaries. Little by little, you train yourself to ignore your own signals. Your brain becomes highly sensitive to everyone else and strangely disconnected from you. This is where the wicked side of kindness begins to show itself. Not because kindness is wrong, but because it becomes one-sided. And here's the strange twist. The very thing that once protected you is now the thing exhausting you. The ability that made you safe as a child now quietly drains you as an adult. Think about it. You're good at sensing what others need, but how often do you pause to ask what you need? You're good at calming people down, but who calms you down? You're good at making sure others feel comfortable, but how often do you feel fully comfortable being yourself? This is the hidden paradox. Extreme kindness often grows out of emotional vigilance, and vigilance is tiring. Your nervous system is constantly scanning, constantly adjusting, constantly smoothing edges. It's like being the emotional shock absorber in every relationship. Eventually, something starts to happen. You begin attracting a certain type of person, not intentionally, but psychologically. People who are used to being taken care of. People who feel comfortable leaning. People who naturally expect emotional labor. At first, it feels natural. You help. They receive. But over time, the imbalance grows. And one day you notice something unsettling. You're surrounded by people, but you still feel alone because they know the version of you that gives. They don't always know the version of you that needs. And here's the behavior I mentioned earlier, the one many chronically kind people carry into adulthood without realizing it. You make yourself easy to love, not by being fake, but by quietly removing the parts of you that might create friction. Your anger becomes patience. Your needs become flexibility. Your boundaries become understanding. You become incredibly easy to be around, but that ease is built on invisible self-erasure. And the mind rarely complains loudly about this. It complains quietly, through fatigue, through resentment, through the strange feeling that you give more. And this is where the deeper psychological mechanism appears. Your brain didn't learn kindness in isolation. It learned something else alongside it. Conditional safety. The nervous system started associating harmony with survival. If people are calm, you are safe. If people are upset, something is wrong. So conflict becomes threatening. Disagreement feels dangerous. Even small tension can trigger an instinct to repair the emotional environment. Not because you're weak, because your brain was trained that way. This is also why extremely kind people sometimes struggle with boundaries. Not because they don't know what boundaries are, but because setting one can feel like lighting a match in a quiet room. Your nervous system braces for an explosion that may never come. So instead, you accommodate, you adapt, you stay kind. But here's the identity shift that many people never hear. You weren't weak, you were perceptive. You weren't overly sensitive. You were highly attuned. You weren't naive. You were adapting to the emotional conditions around you. Your kindness may have started as intelligence. Your brain reading the room. Your nervous system protecting itself. That's not a flaw. That's survival. But survival strategies are not meant to run your entire life. They're meant to help you get through specific environments. And sometimes, long after the environment changes, the strategy keeps running, like an old program still active in the background. This is where awareness begins to change the pattern. Not by forcing yourself to become less kind, but by understanding the difference between kindness and self-abandonment. Real kindness includes you. It doesn't erase you. It doesn't silence your needs. It doesn't require you to carry everyone else's emotions alone. Healthy kindness has boundaries, not walls, boundaries. The ability to say, I care about you, but I also care about me. At first, this shift feels uncomfortable, even selfish, because your brain is used to measuring safety through harmony. But something surprising happens when you begin practicing it. The relationships that relied on your self-erasure start to feel unstable, and the relationships built on mutual respect start to grow stronger. Some people will resist the change because they were comfortable with the version of you that never pushed back. But others will finally meet the real you, not just the helpful version, the full version, the one with opinions, limits, needs, and feelings that don't always stay polite. This is where kindness transforms. It stops being a survival strategy and starts becoming a conscious choice. Not something you do to maintain safety, something you offer freely, because you want to. And there's a quiet freedom in that. The freedom to help without losing yourself. The freedom to care without carrying everyone. The freedom to say no without feeling like the world will collapse. But perhaps the most important realization is this: your kindness was never the problem. The problem was the invisible rule your mind attached to it. The rule that said other people's comfort must come before your authenticity. Once that rule begins to loosen, your kindness changes shape. It becomes calmer, more honest, more balanced, and strangely, more powerful. Because kindness that includes boundaries commands respect. Kindness that includes self-respect teaches others how to treat you. And kindness that includes honesty creates relationships that can actually hold the real you. So the wicked side of kindness isn't kindness itself. It's the moment kindness becomes a mask your nervous system wears to feel safe. The moment you stop being kind by choice and start being kind by reflex. But once you notice that pattern, something shifts. You begin reclaiming the parts of yourself that were quietly set aside. Your voice, your limits, your right to take up emotional space. And the strange truth is, when kindness stops costing you your identity, it stops being survival and finally becomes what it was always meant to be: a gift, not a sacrifice.